Hello my dear YouTuber friends, and I do hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video. In this video I'm going to be giving you a 2-for-1 special. We've had two recent releases, a famous flyer and local legend. In this video I'm going to be reviewing both these aircraft. So it's a Saab, I think it's a B-17 as you can see here, and also the Mitsubishi. I think it's the MU-2. Both are recent releases, both are quite low cost as well, and both you can play on PC and Xbox. So I'm going to be giving you my honest review and thoughts on these aircraft, and giving you my recommendations whether they're worth your time and money. So okay, let's not dilly-dally. Let's get on with this video. So let's start off with the famous flyer Mitsubishi Heavy Industries MU-2. As you can see here, one thing I will say, both the aircraft I'm reviewing are for a low price for Xbox and PC. I paid £12.49 for each one, so a bit of a bargain in that sense. Just show you the external of this Mitsubishi. It does come with 5 different liveries. Let me just show you a little bit of that on screen. So there you go, 5 different liveries. We can take that off screen now. This is one of them. This is perhaps one of the better ones, I think, more snazzy ones. It looks okay. I mean, you know, for a low cost aircraft, there's no qualms about the modelling outside. Nice rivets there, nice details. Doesn't look too bad at all, does it? You can see those massive flaps. Let's take those flaps up on the rings. Now, a guy called Nuke the Whales in the Discord, he says he lives in Canada. He says that he has quite a lot of these flying over his local area. In fact, that was in flaps too. You will need... I found a couple of stages of flaps. That's why it comes in flaps stage 2 configuration for takeoff. To take off, it is quite a heavy aircraft, as you'll see when we come to takeoff. That's the external. Looks okay. Internally, takes a bit of a nosedive in my opinion. Now, I'm no expert of this aircraft, not even heard of it since before buying it. In fact, I bought it a couple of days ago now. It's been released for the past few days. Yeah, okay, it does give the impression of an old cockpit, but it looks almost Flight Sim X era. You know, a little bit more work could have been done here in the internal. A good thing about it is the dials, it's analog dials, they're fairly easy to read. If you're used to flying something like the Grand Caravan or Cessna 152, you're not going to have any difficulties, or even the 182, you won't have any difficulties following these dials, you know, airspeed, vertical speed, rate of climb, and altitude, that type of thing. Now it comes with, I think that's a GS 530, isn't it? You do get a little telephone to the side here. In fact, if I go back to my normal view, go to previous pilot's position twice, you'll get to this telephone. This gives you a couple of things. So settings, you could have classic cockpit. Now let's get back to the cockpit default view. You can see here you've got this sort of very old school navigation. It's good for that if you want to learn to use that. Something I've not done at this point, or if you don't choose classic cockpit, you will get some kind of Garmin system thrown in there. And you've got the passenger variant or cargo. Now, let's just get back up, and I'll just use my mouse to look around. This is a cargo variant, quite nice. Come back down, and you can put it in a passenger config, and then of course you'll get, you know, if you had passengers loaded in, you can get passengers in the back. So that's quite nice as well. I do prefer this as a cargo variant. And there's something else. If we go back to home here, how do we get to home? Pressing that button there. If you go to map, you get a little map there as well. So Yeah, I guess it's kind of nice. I'm in the one of the World Update 15 areas, by the way. Link down to my live stream of that down below. I did a live stream yesterday when it was released. So if you want to follow our routes here, it's touchscreen. You can follow along. I guess it's kind of nice, isn't it? One thing I didn't appreciate, not only the look of the cockpit. Yes, it's okay. I'll go back to that. It's okay making it look old, but it just looks very antiquated. Doesn't quite fit in with the Flight Sim 2020 generally. Some of these switches don't actually work, so you can see that one doesn't work. This one does, the airframe de-ice, wipers switch. So turn it on, you get wipers. But the ones in between it, for some reason, they're not clickable. That for me is a little bit unforgivable. If it was a default aircraft, fine. We're paying for this. All these seem to work, thankfully. Now, I don't know if that's... I wouldn't imagine that's the way it is in the original aircraft. Or in the actual aircraft. This middle one here doesn't work. Or that third one. These seem all okay. This one doesn't work, but you got lighting for the rest of them. So you can mess around with lighting in darker times, shall we say. Yeah, so a couple of the switches don't even work either. But okay. Now, I believe for takeoff you should be trimming downwards, so a bit of nose down trim. I'm going to show you what happens if you don't. I've got stage 2 of flap set. It's a heavy aircraft, so I'll throttle up, release the parking brake. We're going to have to get up to past here for takeoff, so what's that going to be? About between 120 and 150 knots. It does speed up nicely. Watch what happens when I take off without putting some nose down trim in there, though. So we can take off now. Well, see, not quite yet. I'm pulling back now. We can take off. Now I'm going to have to bring up those flaps quickly. Otherwise, you're going to end up going skyward. So I'm bringing up my flaps. Now I can trim it just for a gradual. Nose up. Climb. There we go. So bring up those flaps quickly on takeoff. And listen to this. Go and bring my gear up. Listen to the sound. So you get nice sound and a nice animation outside with gear up. So there are some redeeming qualities. And it does now. I'm just going to fly this around. There's 2 aircraft for me to review in this video, so I'm going to be brief on each one. So you fly around. It does have a nice heavy feel to it. There you go. I'll just trim down now. Bring my throttle back slightly. It looks like... apparently we're going to 200 knots there, so it is quite a quick aircraft. You want to do cross-country travels on this, bush flying, that type of thing, you're going to have no issues. Cargo flights, whatever you want. There we go, so we trim it out there, and it does feel quite nice. Now if you put a stage of flaps in, let's just do this. Say there's a landing field ahead of us. There may be, in fact. Now not only are you going to have to watch your trim, you're going to have to use my other more aggressive trim just to get that back trimmed. If you start to reduce that throttle, it will drop like a brick. Now, Nuke the Whales, a chap in our Discord, if I've not mentioned him already, lovely name by the way, he was saying it's characteristic of the real thing. Slow down too much, flaps out, so you get to that 120 speed, you'll see this starts, even now, it's starting to sink quite dramatically. So you do have to watch this on landing and pay attention. And it is an aircraft that you're going to have to learn to fly properly. For the price, £12.49, I guess you can't fault it apart from the look of the cockpit there. I'm not a fan. The dials are easy enough to read. I mean, if it looks like the real thing, fair enough. I know little about this aircraft. But it's kind of different. It does feel different to fly to other aircraft that are out there at the moment. And it is quite tricky to land this one. I've made a hole on Heathrow 27 right trying to land there. Actually, I did manage to get on the runway just, but it came down just before the runway. So it's a tricky one to learn. With gear down, flaps in. Let's bring the gear down. Listen to the noise. Real thump of the gear coming down. That's nice. I'm going to have to speed up again because I'm already struggling to keep it at level flights if I'm coming in for a landing or slight descent. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Worth the money. Look, for £12.49, can you really go wrong? If you're a fan of this aircraft, go for it. If you're not, I don't know if I'm going to come back to it much. I may, because like I said, there is a challenge on trying to learn how to fly this properly. Not really a massive recommendation from me on this one. Interesting though, nonetheless. Okay, well let's now turn our attention to the Saab B17A. Externally, she is an absolute beauty. Let's zoom in and you can see the scrapes and scruffs on the fuselage of the aircraft there. The high level of detail. I mean, look at it. You can spend a good while just looking around at the 3D model. 10 out of 10 for that, I've got to say. Beautiful looking aircraft externally, quite distinctive as well, isn't it? Let's just zoom out a little bit more there. You do get, I believe, 7 different liveries for this one, so you do get more bang for your buck, as I'm showing you on screen there. So there you go, you can choose whichever one you want. So let's take that off screen. And if we come around to the front of the aircraft, you can see these distinctive landing gear legs. These do retract, as I'll be showing you later. Just look at that. It's a beautiful aircraft model. Let's just get internal. Thankfully with this one, the 3D modelling inside the aircraft is bang up to date. Looks like a very much a World War II era aircraft as it is. Pretty much sent Saab on the road to success, this aircraft. A lot of the nozzles and switches thankfully do work and operate just fine, so you're not going to have any issues here. So far it's a bit of a steal, isn't it? Looks fantastic. Let's just open that, the canopy. There you go, you get more sounds on the outside. That is just brilliant. Very much feels like a high fidelity type aircraft, this one. Very nice, and let's just do a quick turn around. I will enable my Toby later in flight. So there you go. If you had the aviators on, you'll be able to see your passenger or co-pilot at the back there. Let's just oh, there we go. Isn't that brilliant? So many different bits and pieces to play around with this in this aircraft. Yeah, you could spend a fair while just twiddling with knobs and goodness knows what. But we won't do that. Let's take it up for a test flight. Okay, well let's take this beauty up for a fly, shall we? I just want to show you something, just in case it's not isolated to me and other people are having issues. Just going to increase my throttle. See that screen juddering there? Now my graphics drivers are up to date. I don't have any issues with other aircraft. Only this one does that. So if anybody else is getting that, it's not just isolated to you. I don't know, I'm going to have to look into it. Maybe it is something to do with my settings. But I'm just going to increase my throttle slowly there, maybe 50% or so. It does settle down. Take my parking brakes off. Come on, settle down. Slowly keep increasing my throttle. Now the nose of the aircraft will want to come down. You've got to be careful of that and mindful. And it will also want to yaw to the left sharply. So you just got to keep it centered on the runway. Keep increasing your throttle. And just be careful you don't bang that nose. It will tip forward the aircraft too much and you'll end up just, yeah, tipping the aircraft up. I'm scraping my wings there, not perfect, but we're up. Does take a while. A lot of these World War II era aircraft do have that kind of taxiing takeoff characteristics, and it can be tricky, but you soon get used to it. Now let me just bring my gear up, and as we do that, I'll pop outside. You can see that wonderful landing gear tucking under the body of the aircraft. Isn't that neat? And just get inside there. And now we're up in the air. If you've got Track IR, Toby Eye Tracker 5 like myself, this is a must. Enable that. And then you're going to get the most from this aircraft. Just take a look down at my instruments there. Really is one of those incredible experiences with some kind of head tracking or VR. Of course, you can now see the juddering soon stops. I'll investigate that more just in case it's a setting I've missed, but I don't get that in other aircraft, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Just going to make sure that my flaps are up. They seem to be. And there you go. And you could take her for a flight. Not the quickest of aircraft. It's no slouch either. Just feel like you are flying an authentic World War II era aircraft. So this one for me is an absolute must. It's a steal at $12.49. This one is a high recommendation. As you can hear from the outside as well, lovely sounding aircraft. The flaps actually, let's risk this, but the flaps do have a lovely animation as well, as you can see there. Let's take them back up before my aircraft goes crazy. And again, with that head tracking enabled, you are just getting one excellent experience, one very visceral experience in this aircraft. Yeah, it's a bit of a steal at $12.49 or around $15, and it's one I can see myself coming back to. So there you go, that's my review of the two recent releases, both for Xbox and PC. You can buy them on either platform. Have you got any of them? What do you think? Do let me know in the comments below. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, many more flight simulator videos on their way. Let's just do a barrel roll. It's a bit slow at doing that. You can't be at altitude, I would suggest. And I'll be seeing you soon.